Jimmy Fallon may be losing The Tonight Show.
Fallon's drinking has reportedly been a cause for concern here at The Tonight Show.
Guess what? Not a lot of black folks on the show.
You never knew which Jimmy we were going to get, and when he was going through a hissy fit.
Employees said they were afraid of Fallon's outburst and his erratic behavior.
The show has had a toxic workplace for years.
It looks like Jimmy Fallon is the latest entertainer to receive major backlash. Tons of his employees are coming forward with terrible stories about Jimmy. They claim that working for The Tonight Show was so bad that employees regularly talked about taking their own lives. So let's get into it. We've covered a variety of television show hosts. We've got videos about Ellen DeGeneres, James Gordon, and we've even got videos about Oprah. But this time it is Jimmy Fallon's turn. Now this honestly came as a surprise because the Rolling Stone put out an article talking about how toxic Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show is. In the report, they claimed that Jimmy was especially dismissive and irritable, that he stumbled through rehearsal in front of a studio audience. They also claimed that it's common knowledge behind the scenes that there are good Jimmy days where Jimmy is full of wit and charm and creativity, and then there are bad Jimmy days. And it seems like on his bad Jimmy days, he had one too many drinks. And there are a few moments where people have caught wind of this. Like back in 2017, he was crossing out jokes and then arguing with the audience a little bit, then looking down and looking around, and it didn't seem like he was coherent. Quote, he couldn't remember that he had just crossed out the jokes himself. This person claims, I was like, oh my God, he seems drunk. He doesn't know what he's doing. This could be awful. This could be the end of the show right here. So at this point, it is common knowledge that employees are watching this play out, and there are moments on screen where NBC has to explain what's going on.
He doesn't have a drinking problem. That's the word from Jimmy Fallon's boss at NBC. Fallon's drinking has reportedly been a cause for concern here at The Tonight Show after a series of bizarre accidents halted production. In October, at a party in Harvard, he fell on a broken bottle, slicing his other hand.
I threw the bottle and then I just landed on broken glass. And, oh yeah.
The fun-loving host makes no bones about his fondness for booze. Drinking games are a regular feature on his show. But his boss at NBC says Fallon's drinking is under control. He goes out and has fun, and he's had some accidents. NBC Entertainment Chairman Bob Greenblatt told reporters Wednesday, "We are always worried about his safety and health, and yeah, there's been conversations about that." He added, he doesn't have a drinking problem that any of us know about.
Of course, NBC is going to say anything to save this show, and honestly, the staff will too, to a certain point. According to 2 current and 14 employees, The Tonight Show has been a toxic workplace for years. They say the ugly environment behind the scenes started at the top with Jimmy Fallon's erratic behavior and has trickled down to its ever-changing leadership teams. 9 showrunners in the past 9 years, which isn't typical. Usually a showrunner is an important position, and they stay with that show for a long time. Former employees described The Tonight Show as a tense and pretty gloom atmosphere, with some alleging that they were belittled and intimidated by their bosses, including Jimmy himself. Employees described being afraid of Jimmy Fallon's outbursts and unexpected and inconsistent behavior. Many of these staffers voiced their concerns through HR complaints, but problems at The Tonight Show persisted. 7 former employees say that their mental health was impacted by their experience on the show. These staffers say it was a commonplace to hear people joking about wanting to off themselves. They even had a common practice of running into the green room and crying because that would be their place they can go to safely unwind and let their emotions play out. Now, these former staffers who spoke to the Rolling Stone, they're not giving out their names because they are actually fearful of retaliation. Many of these former staffers say they left the show because of their mental health, but some say that they were fired.
Tonight Show staffers claim Jimmy Fallon is erratic, seems drunk at toxic workplace, and by drunk, they also mean he loves to ski. Like, no one loves to go skiing more. 2 current employees and 14 former employees, ranging from production crew members to office staff, show writers, dished on their alleged negative experience working with the late night show in a bombshell report published by the Rolling Stone on Thursday. in which they claim there are, quote, good Jimmy days and, quote, bad Jimmy days. Ariana knows all about those days. Nobody told Jimmy no. Everybody walked on eggshells, especially showrunners. A former employee told the magazine, "You never knew which Jimmy we were going to get and when he was going through a hissy fit." However, a show source notes to page 6 that many of the accusations are coming from former staffers, telling us exclusively that the work environment has significantly shifted over time since new showrunner Chris Miller joined last May.
Now, I honestly believe these stories coming out about this show because there's a lot of people saying the same thing. One employee was quoted saying, "It's a bummer because it was my dream job." Writing for late night is a lot of people's dream jobs, and they're coming into this and it becomes a nightmare very quickly. It's sad it's like that, especially knowing that it doesn't have to be that way. Rolling Stone reached out to a ton of different people, more than 50 different past employees. While many of them praised Jimmy's immense talent and comedic gifts, not a single one agreed to speak on the record or had positive things to say about working on The Tonight Show.
Another producer on the show tells Page 6 that Fallon is extremely engaged with the staff and the atmosphere is very different. There's a new wave that came in a year and a half ago and it's just made everything change, the producer tells us, explaining that a new head booker and new head writer were also hired. The current and former employees that talk to Rolling Stone, though, say that the show has had a toxic workplace for years. From Fallon's erratic behavior to the show's revolving door of leadership teams, there have been 9 showrunners in the past 9 years.
So of course, Jimmy is trying to avoid speaking on this at all costs, at least for now. But NBC put out a statement saying that they're super proud of this show and that, a respectful working environment is the top priority. All of the good things that we expect a network to try to say to save themselves. But it's not aligning with what these employees are saying. Quote, "The producers felt this pressure and that translated down to all of their employees. People that worked under them felt this pressure that if you made one mistake, you were gone and would be easily replaced." So not only is there a lot of bad management, but there's really no job security because if you mess up once, you are out the door.
Jimmy Fallon may be losing The Tonight Show. It's being reported by Rolling Stone that 16 former employees of The Tonight Show describe it as a pretty glum atmosphere where they were belittled and intimidated by their bosses, including Jimmy. So it's not even just Jimmy. Apparently there were other issues as well in terms of upper management and bosses, if you will. Employees said they were afraid of Fallon's outburst and his erratic behavior. Now, I'm just speculating on this point because saying outburst and erratic behavior, there's many different things that could potentially mean in terms of his behavior and everything. But it sounds like to me, based on other things being reported in the Rolling Stone article, that he had a temper issue. Like, he had an anger problem, and he could just fly off the handles at any moment on somebody that he deems is not doing a good job or something to that effect. And more stories are coming out that's even crazier that's surrounding all this.
And Jimmy's situation does remind me of Ellen DeGeneres because she had a lot of bad leaders as well. There is a chaotic atmosphere among staffers, many of whom have lost faith in senior leadership. Nobody told Jimmy no. Everybody walked on eggshells, especially showrunners. You never knew which Jimmy you were going to get and when he was going to throw a hissy fit. Look how many showrunners went so quickly. We know they didn't last long. One former employee was quoted saying, "Mentally, I was in the lowest place of my life. I didn't want to live anymore. I thought about taking my own life all the time. I knew deep down that I would never actually do it, but in my head, I'm like, why do I think about this all the time?" Another employee claims that they lost nearly 20 pounds during their time working under a showrunner. They felt like they're on edge all the time and cried themselves to sleep every night.
Former employees said the toxic work environment impacted their mental health. Rolling Stone reports that 4 employees said that they are in therapy and 3 others had experienced ideations because of their work time with Jimmy Fallon on his show. "Mentally, I was in the lowest place in my life. I didn't want to live anymore. I thought about taking my own life all the time," a former employee claimed. "I knew deep down I would never actually do it, but in my head, I'm like, why do I think about this all the time?" That is what that is. That is very much what that is. Others were in constant fear that they would lose work if they did not do a perfect job. The producers felt this pressure, and that translated down to all their employees. People that worked under them then felt this pressure that if you made one mistake, you were gone and would be easily replaced. You have all these NBC pages in the building who are ready, willing, and waiting to take your job. That's got to be hard.
Working in the entertainment industry is stressful as it is, so having this working environment sounds like hell on earth. One person was quoted saying, "It was like if Jimmy's in a bad mood, everyone's day is effed. People wouldn't joke around in the office, they wouldn't stand around and talk to each other. It was very much focused on whatever you have to do because Jimmy's in a bad mood, and if he sees that, he might fly off." Quote, "We're up against it" was a commonly used phrase around the office employees. They would say to warn each other if Jimmy wasn't having a good day. Therefore, everyone else was in for a rough one as well.
Employees also felt that their workday depended on Fallon's ever-changing mood. It's not good to have a professional skier as a boss. I know firsthand. It was like if Jimmy is in a bad mood, everyone's day is f***ed. An employee said people wouldn't joke around in the office and they wouldn't stand around and talk to each other. No watering hole. It was very much like focus on whatever it is that you have to do because Jimmy's in a bad mood, and if he sees that, he might fly off. Oh, he's fun to be around. The former workers, and this is the most important part, they asked to remain anonymous out of fear of retaliation. Rolling Stone reported that many of the ex-employees either exited the show to protect their mental health or were fired. Fallon hasn't publicly responded to these accusations, but I'm gonna guess he's gonna apologize if anyone misinterpreted his passion for working in his show with anything else, and if he made anyone feel uncomfortable. And that he's dedicated to his work and blah, 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 you know what I mean.
As we have suggested throughout this article, it seems like Jimmy has an issue with alcohol, and that probably fuels part of the problem here. I mean, in 2016, the New York Post ran a story alleging that NBC executives were concerned about Jimmy's drinking. Jimmy denied this in that New York Times profile published in 2017. He said, "I could never do a day-to-day job if I was drinking every night. That's just kicking you when you're down." But two employees say that they saw Jimmy seemingly inebriated at work in 2017. Another two employees say on separate occasions in 2019 and 2020, they thought they smelled alcohol on Jimmy's breath. According to 8 former employees, Jimmy's behavior seemed to be dependent on if he appeared to be hungover from the night before.
2 employees told the publication that Fallon seemed drunk at work in 2017. Another pair of workers claimed to have smelled alcohol on the host's breath in the elevator on separate occasions in 2019 and 2020. If you read any Jimmy Fallon's blind item, no one is shocked. Former late-night actor turned talk show host doesn't care about his employees. Apparently, that hangover from the night prior while partying with models kept him from a staff meeting. Every other talk show host met with their staff. That is Jimmy Fallon no-showing on his staff meeting yesterday amid the fucking writer's strike. I mean, at least him and Seth Meyers are going to be paying for the 3rd week of their writer's salary while they strike. But pay your fucking writers, NBC, Jimmy Fallon.
It's probably not a great time for this story to come out because everyone is on strike, so they have plenty of time to speak to the reporters. Quote, "When something was wrong, we all knew how to behave afterwards, which was sort of avoid eye contact and don't make another mistake. It would happen over the smallest thing. We would have to shut the whole thing down. The sketch isn't happening, and when things like that would happen, you would just beat yourself up." The erratic nature of the talk show host's behavior led to widespread fear around those who interacted with him. It was just really, really sad to me that this really talented man could create such a horrible environment for the people there. Employees also claim that he would just talk down to them, saying like, "Are you okay? Seriously, do you need help? Ugh, lame, what's going on with you? You've outdone yourself." The same employee says that Jimmy would also send combative emails, one of which was reviewed by Rolling Stone, to certain staffers if he was dissatisfied with their work. 2 employees remember witnessing Jimmy scold a crew member who was in charge of his cue cards in the middle of taping with Jerry Seinfeld. They said it was an uncomfortable moment. Seinfeld told Jimmy to apologize to the cue card production member, which he allegedly did. The employees say that this incident felt awkward to watch, and it didn't make it to the version of the show that appeared on television.
Like at the end of your show tonight,
yes,
there are credits, right?
Correct.
And there are executive producer credits of people who do absolutely nothing on this show. Is that correct? Nothing. They contribute nothing.
But this isn't the first time that Jimmy has had some bad press out there. In 2020, a video of Jimmy in blackface during an SNL skit resurfaced. This came at a heightened time of racial and social awareness because of the George Floyd situation and the Black Lives Matter protests. He did tweet an apology about this. He was doing an impersonation of Chris Rock, but obviously it was in bad taste. While Jimmy publicly addressed the video, employees said that there was an internal uproar because staff members weren't happy that Jimmy didn't directly acknowledge acknowledge the incident with them. One employee was quoted saying, "It was the first time I'd seen this video, even though I was told, oh, this resurfaced again." So I'm sure for many other people on the staff, especially younger folks, it was probably the first time they were seeing it too. The same former employee said that when the clip started going viral, senior leadership initially wanted to sweep it under the rug.
Where is it? Man, oh man, read this millionaire, and guess what? Not a lot of black folks on the show. Oh, they want to be millionaires. Like in 1981, cashing a pair of Pumas.
And of course, they were trying to sweep it under the rug because it's such a bad look. It does seem like the showrunner at the time did implement a regular internal diversity and culture meeting afterwards, but it doesn't seem like Jimmy was really part of this at all. There was also this showrunner at some point who seems incredibly toxic. Rolling Stone reports that one black employee says that the showrunner kept asking them what's going on with their hair. The employee also says they witnessed this showrunner make comments about how much food people would eat, saying to staffers, "We're just eating a lot today and not caring about what we look like." Two employees also claimed they were mistreated by this staffer who bullied, intimidated, and yelled at them.
Now, this is not about Jimmy Fallon specifically, but a former Tonight Show boss, Jamie Granite Betterman, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, actually I don't really care, bullied staff, constantly asking one black employee, "What is going on with your hair?" Like, what? And then saying that she would also bully the staff's food. "We're just eating a lot today and not caring about what we look like." Even though this is not about Jimmy, I think it's more to the fact of the actual staffing problems, including Jimmy and other people that were there who used to be there or still there now from the Tonight Show. I don't know where we go from here. I'm not sure. This is not a good look for Jimmy at all. And right now, since the show is off the air, this is all coming out. If the show was on the air, I bet none of this would have came out. But the fact that it's off the air right now due to the strikes, I don't know. The show might not come back with him as host.
Neither of these bosses or showrunners have any comments, but one employee said that they were the worst bosses I ever had in my life. They use that position of power to bully and treat their staff that way, and the network is aware of how they treat people. And it does seem like these employees went to HR, they filed their complaints, they did what they're supposed to do, but the network rewarded this kind of bullying behavior. Quote, "Everything I relayed to HR was then relayed to my manager, so it was not a safe space. I felt as if they were acting in the interest of one person instead of the interests of the greater whole."
The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon has been off the air since May due to the writer's strike, but there's been rumblings behind the scenes which have been exposed. They say Fallon would belittle staffers out of frustration, which led to a high turnover rate. Some reportedly told HR about their experiences during exit interviews. Others feared retaliation if they spoke up. It's common knowledge that entertainment TV is a stressful industry, but sources say this was different.
It does seem like this was different, especially because a lot of these employees were fired as well, like completely caught off guard and fired, maybe because they put an HR complaint in and, the leadership wanted to protect this toxic culture. One employee claims that they ended up talking to an HR person later on the phone, and she was like, "Yeah, I never seen anything like this. I don't know why you're being let go. You didn't do anything wrong. I've never seen someone get fired for no reason." So no job security at all, which is already hard enough in the entertainment industry.
Now, a spokesperson for NBC defended the program, saying providing a respectful working environment is a top priority. As you know, Fallon is not the first host to come under fire after reports of a toxic work environment. You may recall Ellen Degeneres bid farewell to her long-running daytime talk show following similar allegations.
One person tweeted, "On Tosh.0, they said for a long time that Jimmy Fallon was an obnoxious drunk that routinely had to be reprimanded by NBC honchos. Now folks are getting confirmation about his toxic behavior." And it's not like one staffer, two staffers. I mean, even when it came to Lizzo, she had like 6 people. Here they have handfuls of people who have similar stories. So Jimmy Fallon's going to have to explain this, or maybe the Tonight Show will need a new host. I mean, I would love to be a host one day, like a daytime or nighttime television, any type of host. I mean, I would love to do it. So if they have an opening over there, I am ready to step in, because I cannot imagine fueling a toxic work environment. Like, we all have to be here and work just like to live and to exist. Why make it hard on each other or worse for everyone else? I just don't understand that mentality. Life is so much better when you live it in a happy place, but clearly Jimmy isn't happy, and he may be a little bit wasted too. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in a new video soon. Bye, guys.